Hey, mate.
Morning, how are you getting on?
They're good. Nice haircut.
Terrible, isn't it? Peer pressure, literally peer pressure. The whole of all the boys at work have all shaved their swoosh, and I
Everyone's
was the
doing
only
it.
one. Yeah, so that was it. Then
Mate, really
Rachel,
get on it. That's awesome.
like American History X, isn't it? It's terrible.
Jocko Willink.
How's things your end, man?
Things have been good. Like, I think the main thing is just sorting out the little man. As I said, all the other changes have been positive. It's just essentially working out a new routine around being situated in the house 24/7 and just trying to kind of achieve on one side and do all this stuff to really go forward and make use of the opportunity. But
Yeah, I can imagine it seems to be everyone I know is exactly the same thing. Is they're trying to get stuff done either before they get out of bed or when they go to sleep is their busiest time because the kids just running around wild doing PT with them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Imagine. Yeah, they're jumping in on calls. They're trying to kind of interrupt business.
Got 2-year-olds doing burpees, just hilarious. Literally.
Yeah, my son. He's been in on like so many client meetings. It's ridiculous. Like, I actually think though, when you own it, when it's actually and you bring them into the conversation, I find that it doesn't go down too badly with the client, but also the child doesn't then overreact either because you're being normal with them. When you try and force like, right, don't come in here, it goes so much worse than if you're just like, right, okay, this is happening, own it. Do you want to sit on my knee? You introduce them. I've introduced them to like 10 different clients thing, and then then they end up getting bored and going away anyway. So it works. People are being quite respectful of the fact that this is a strange time.
So strange. It's very, I'm sure a fella in your position, it's difficult to, you have to be dad number one when you're at home with the kid. Like you said, it becomes, if you make it a normal thing and just say, look, mate, I'm busy. Do you want to, you can sit on my knee, but I've got to talk to somebody. It probably alleviates the stress of if you shut the door and tell him to leave you alone and he's running around going mental saying, why is dad locking me out?
Yeah, that's it. Like, and he thinks every day is a weekend. Like at the end of the day, he doesn't understand why we're not going swimming, and he wakes up every morning and goes, Thailand. We'll go Thailand. It's like, mate, Thailand's closed. We've got to just stick with the next month or two, and then we can do the things you love. But it's just, he's an active little man.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky not to have a youngster jumping all over me, but it's operation make sure I don't make a youngster in the time period I've been stuck at home for that 6 weeks, isn't it?
How's it been with you?
Yeah, we're okay, man. We're good our end. It's just gone wild, man. It's been the transition, like it literally pivoting on what we talked about before of my whole business went online. And that's been really, 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 really good. It's been very difficult in the position of just a different way of working. So obviously I'm sat at a computer all day now, just doing programming and trying to make things happen in the respect of get more clients. I mean, I've doubled my online client list. Started to support. Yeah, it was good, mate. It literally, just like what you've written in your books, and we'll go through them in a minute. But like the way that you just pivot, man. It was literally like, okay, I'm either stuck at home and I can moan about it, adapt, yeah. So I've literally flipped my whole business online, just sold a corporate package, and I'm trying to sell another one currently.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's good, mate. It's been really, really good. I lost 75% of I basically lost 80% of my wage, and now I'm back up to 75% without being in the room. So it's been good,
solid.
Man.
Imagine that's like an adaptation that out of this comes the seed of a huge opportunity that changes the game.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, I think what reason for, as you said, I wanted to get you to have a chat as well, is to show others like there's no reason why anybody else can't do this. And going through obviously your books and stuff has been so good to have like the ability of putting it laid out in front of you that actually you're not actually that far off. Everyone's literally a step closer than they really think. It just sometimes it just becomes like this like sea of I'm unsure, rather than actually dealing with what's in front of you. yes, you have to have your 5-year plan, and you have to have your sort of layers laid out. I mean, I actually did that again in your book, where chapter is at the beginning, where you lay out your 5 or 6 to 7 year plan.
Absolutely.
Me and Rachel redid that purely off the basis of the coronavirus, because now it becomes like, right, actually my business can survive away from me having to just to be here. And it's been in like absolute game changer, because the mindset now is not of hang on for dear life, it's push as hard as you can, and provide value as well. Like it's like we've discussed before about how weird it is, how you speak to like the soul of your body about how shit can get real, but in that moment of when it is getting real, you have a determining factor of you can either let it cripple you, or you can embrace it and try and figure out how to utilize it. And it's been really, really powerful.
It changed then. So how drastically did the 5-year plan change from the first time you did it?
Not crazy from a mine and her standpoint. I mean, obviously stuff
it's like
kids.
Division you're still headed to wherever that was, but maybe the daily, the weekly, the monthly, and the yearly goal shifted.
Exactly, and it was more the way that we're going to approach it. I think was it before it was very like you can know you're self-limiting, but some of the stuff you say isn't actually that scary when you actually think about it. And I think one thing that I've learned personally is if it's not freaking you out a little bit, then it's probably not big enough. I'm actually working with MPE, which is a fitness business company, and the guy Sean Greeley there. I got a weekly call with him, and everyone else there is like got a business making 100K a month and all this kind of jazz. And there's me, the little personal trainer. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm making 20 G's a month. I'm doing it. And he's like, mate. And I explained my situation. I was like, look, man, I've dropped all my wage, but I've made 80% back. And he was like, well, you're never gonna lose that part of it. Your issue is now you need to have the scary thing that you can go, actually, do you know what? I'm gonna leverage this to become similar to what I saw you've done. Is your thing was to write books to help people, even though you've got a full-time job and a family. Like and your job's not like packing shelves at Asda, man. Your job is high level deals and stuff. So
felt like in a similar way, I wanted to write a guide for someone that they could pick it up. They knew that they wanted to do more. They knew that they wanted to find a deeper purpose. They knew that they had stuff to give to the world, right? But they also wanted to dominate in that thing that they were doing. Because it's like, I have this bigger vision about how you get there. And so you start with like, you've got a day job, you've got your day job, the thing that brings in the money. Then you've got your side hustles, and then you've got all your different business ventures. And what obviously you want to do is get those business ventures and those side hustles pumping so that you can have passive income to come in to become and be able to step full time into your main hustles. So they can become a main hustle. And I guess for me, I was knocking around at 27 at the time, and I was just thinking, there's got to be more to life than just get up, go party, do the day job, and like not kind of achieve too much, and kind of languishing in mediocrity, to be honest, and just staying at your local level. And then something switched when I got into the self-help game, and I started really doubling down on really focusing on what these people, these mentors, these gurus, these books, everything was there to be said. Like, it was all out there, but just putting together the pieces, and slowly but surely a framework came together, but also this plan of the 5-year plan, and just what would that look like? And then once I got something to aim for, then I realized that it's all about whatever skill you have, and you look at what skills you've got, and you look at how that's helping people, and you look out in the world, and everyone was sort of saying, hey mate, you're really good at negotiation. Can you help me out with these negotiations? And I was doing it all the time for friends. I did it in my job previously. I was doing very big negotiations, millions of dollars. And suddenly it dawned on me that is a skill that people need help with. And that's where the first idea for the book came, was like, right, well, if I can put that into a book that actually speaks normal language, doesn't exclude people, and doesn't necessarily focus on like situations that people are never going to be in, like negotiating a Super Bowl contract, or like, right, I've got an X Factor, I'm going to get offered this many millions of dollars, how do I negotiate it? But actually everyday negotiation, then you can really change the needle, because people are going to pick that book up. They can see how to even just negotiate on rent or negotiate when they're buying their first house or a car or a job or an interview, all these different scenarios. And then from there, that's where it started to click in my head that there's a whole heap of people out there that weren't being reached by the stuff that was out there because it was all kind of too up here, airy fairy. It needed to be more real for people on the ground in the trenches that want to take their day job and they want to smash it, or they want to take their day job and move from their day job to make that their real job, like as in their own business.
I mean, I haven't actually. I've read Be the Lion. I'm reading your new one, which we can come on in a second, man. It's awesome. But the way that you write and the way that, and from the way that you've led your life is very much a normal person. I think that's why I think this hits home. And I mean, a lot of the guys that I work with, they're all smashing this book and they're all sending all Lion quotes and all this kind of wicked shit. That it's always funny, man. We've got a little group in our gym, which is literally like about 7 of us who are trying to push each other from an emotional level as well as a spiritual one in the respect of don't just be mediocre. And the way that you write and the way that the stories that you tell in it, you can resonate with. I mean, if you would talk about how your youngster was put in hospital and you had to go and deal with that. That's a real situation. That
came out of blue,
And I mean, we can go. We wouldn't mind going into it, but I mean, like that massively resonated with me. Was you're not this super guru, fucking artistic dude in the wall that no one can resonate with. You're a dad who just goes, you know what, I've got to provide to and I mean, it's a huge part of what I think what I deal with, and the people that I resonate with is that they always are asking better of themselves, but it's for a higher power, which is obviously your respect to be your family. I do it for my missus, and I put the ambition of to be in your position of when I have a kid, I don't want to be flapping around worrying about buying a coffee for my mates, you know. And it's all talks about legacy and stuff, but I mean, I think like from the standpoint of resonating with you is it's real, and shit does happen to people that even if they're at the top of their game, it's how you deal with it and how you make that the thing, you know.
Absolutely. And that actually Be the Lion, because the first book was almost like a test, like, can I get to the end of it? Can I write a book and get to the end of it? I didn't think I could stick with it. And I was like, that was the mindset shift that was like, right, I'm going to be determined enough to write a book and actually say I'm going to write a book and then finish it. Be the Lion actually got wrote in one of the most difficult and challenging times of my life. Like everything that could go wrong seemed to go wrong. And as I was writing Be the Lion, I get set with more and more challenges. I get set with more and more faced, and especially when my son, he had a major seizure that we weren't anticipating. We just had our wedding. We just, in Thailand, everyone had come over. It was such a great time. We just got back to Singapore, probably a month in. I think, so obviously weddings are really, really expensive. They take a lot of money. So does moving to Singapore. We've just done all of these biggest expensive things, all on our own coin. And then actually I didn't have any insurance because the company insurance hadn't come through yet. And so it was just in this brief moment, I think it came through the week after or something like that. And it was just ridiculous because then I was faced with a child who I would pay anything to obviously save. And we were going for it. Like this thing was happening. And I guess for my wife and I, seeing our kids on the floor, you feel so helpless. You feel when there's something that, you're trying to do whatever you can do, but your brain sort of freezes. And that's when I realized there is a power within inside everyone that like literally in the book, I say, do what makes you raw, because that to be in that situation, never again is my thing. Like now I will never want to be in that situation where I feel so helpless when you're trying to, as a dad, help your son come out of a seizure, and you need to pull together the pieces and make sure that you get them into hospital. You're in the ER for over an hour and they're trying to sedate him and get him back to just a normal state. And this thing wasn't stopping. And turns out they'd given him some medicine that they shouldn't have done previously at a different hospital, like giving it to him. And that was one of the combination factors that caused him and his little body to start to shut down. So it's a really, really challenging time because we didn't know whether he was, we're not specialists in seizures. We just assumed it was a seizure, but is his throat blocked? Is there something else going on here? Like, what is it? So we're running through all of these different things whilst really in the back of your mind, you're saying, am I witnessing my son die here? Is this the end? Am I
Wow.
seeing the worst thing that could ever happen in front of my eyes after literally the best few days?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we had
yeah.
a wedding. And as you know, moving to Singapore was a key part of our journey. Like, it was something that we really, really wanted to move to Singapore. And then this thing happens. And obviously he was in intensive care for 5 days, all of that's done. But I guess that really set the Be the Lion theme, because inside of me, it lit something that I was already onto it, and I've been sort of 4, 5 years, 6 years going down that road. But that just supercharged my ambition to go after what I really want in life, and this plan, and trying to really get a bigger sphere of influence to be able to help people overcome challenges and actually raise their own game and become their full potential. Because that's essentially my mission now, is to just help other people, either through proving things that people think are impossible are actually possible, either proving that dynamic and doing that in my own life, but also just helping them with tools and strategies and frameworks that I've come up with to actually just help them get that little bit better, so they can show themselves that they can improve and become just the best person, like in terms of their full potential. Full potential's here, and you're here. That is the difference, and that's the extra bit that you were talking about before. That if you're persistent and you push, that's where you win, and that's the difference, because everyone else will stop here. They'll go, it's got hard. It's got hard now. I've surely done better than all my mates. I've done better than everyone else in my peers. I'm going to stop. But what they haven't done is hit their full potential. That's the difference. That's the piece that I realized that was missing. So
do you feel that it took? And I get this sounds quite not in a negative respect, but did you think you needed, not wanting your son to be in a terrible tragic in a position of getting harmed, but having that scary moment? In your book you talk about other times where you've had moments that push you, and as you said, when you were a youngster, you had your intestines are coming up, or something when you were born.
Yeah, the diaphragmatic hernia, a hole in the intestines. So all the intestines shifted up towards the heart, and so I was blue. And then they were like, well, straight away he's dying. Straight away in Nottingham, get him to the doctor, get him to hospital. Went to Kingsmill Hospital in Nottingham, and just ended up meeting obviously the one doctor that saved my life, the one surgeon, but really radical surgery at that time back in the 1980s that had never been. I think I was the second or third baby to have it in England, and unfortunately, out of the 5 babies that had it, 3 of them died, and only 2 made it through this new type of surgery, because it was very innovative at the time, and it weren't sure if it would work. Luckily, I was one of the 2, and obviously that's got my life back. But it just there have been things throughout my life that have been huge challenges. My mum passed away when I was 21. She dies of a really aggressive form of cancer, and obviously that was hugely life-changing for me as well. But it's not just the negative stuff that's pushing you, it's also the positive stuff. And once you start to realize what you're fully capable of, part of you, or part of me anyway, you also hang back then as well, because if your mindset's not right, and if you're like, it's almost like you're scared of how much you can actually achieve, and that's where you start to see the ideas on the top end. And I guess that's the piece I knew from the negative stuff. I want to make something of this life, this opportunity, and all of these things have happened. But on the positive side, once you start to experience success, it's interesting how the brain and the little voices trick you into thinking, oh, that's enough now. That's good. Or, oh, that's better than we thought it would be. Oh, but let's not push it. Or you just start to cloud your own judgment. And so being able to get control of that mindset, so that you become the lion, and that you're on a full 360 balanced approach, able to carry the full weight of your potential and give value, which is the main piece, into the world. So you're actually helping others, and actually and combine those two. Really is the filling mix that really, it's a really potent combination that helps, I think. And that's what I discovered. So it's negative and positive.
If someone was, again, let's put it in someone who maybe hasn't read your book, or is in the position of, like you said, they've seen a little bit of success, but they're not quite sure. They're procrastinating. They're self detrimental behavior. They're not doing it on purpose. But like you said, a friend of mine in Australia, who's an S&C coach, he said the body's lazy and it'll always go down the easiest path. And I find that's the same with the brain. Like you said, as soon as you've seen a bit of success and you're in a safe position where life's good, you don't have to worry. Like, you don't have to worry. You can plug along. You can sneak in. Do you know what? I'm supposed to get up at 6, but I'll get up at 7 because I don't need to learn this thing, or I'm going to watch Netflix rather than read. Or all this sort of, we all understand what not negative behavior, but sort of lazy behavior is. For someone who would be about to start their journey, or someone who is literally getting to a point where they want to be better, what would you say would be like the top 3 things that you would try and focus on from a straight now perspective? Not necessarily just like you said in the book, we talk about you having a 5-year plan and how to cut this up and what sort of money you're looking at, and we can go through your 4 C's framework in a minute. But I mean, if there was 3 things that you take to somebody who was in a position where they knew they had more to offer but couldn't show it, what would those be?
Number 1, obviously, it's take action now, and don't be afraid of take action, because like and taking action is just like a muscle, but what happens is people tend to see success. Maybe they put something out on TikTok or Instagram and it blows up and it goes viral. And because of that going viral, they actually get fearful and they're like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And literally that is the pathway. The world has shown you what's working and then you don't follow it. And it's just this game of like fear versus action taking. So take action today. If there's something in your mind, if there's something that you think you've been ruminating on an idea, or you think there's a business opportunity, you have to execute today and bring that timeline right up close so that you can't get out of it. The next thing I'd say is, if you want to start thinking, just take ownership of one thing in your life. Like obviously mine's a 4 C's approach and there's a framework that we can go through. But I think if you're saying like your example of you just watch Netflix instead of do this, or you eat the crisps instead of eating the protein, or that if you take action on one thing and you raise that bar to excellence, so say it's, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. every day, no matter what happens, whether I feel like it or not. By pushing your mind to do that every single time, you're telling your mind, no, I'm doing this whatever you say. And once you do that, it becomes a lot easier than when you're running and you want to give up, or you're on a jog and you're like, oh, I wanted to go further than this, but I feel a bit tired now. You can start to train that thought process to go, right, we're running more now. We're running double the distance now just because you thought that. And then when you start doing that, or I'm going to have a cold shower. Oh, I don't want to because it's cold. But actually I know that it's going to reduce my inflammation. It's going to start making these synapses connect in different ways and new ideas. It's really going to reduce the stress. Just walk into the shower, put the shower and make it cold. And once you start to take action like that over your mindset, seriously, like you raise one area of your life, all the rest jump up. And that is the key piece to then, once you start to raise the whole bar, because it is like a foundational level. What I found was, and we can talk about this in a bit, but I was very focused on just taking action at the detriment of health, at the detriment of self-belief and certainty, and I wasn't investing anything in that confidence. So I take action. I wasn't feeling confident about it. I wasn't knowing that, this was right. I wasn't listening to my inner self. And then the spiritual side, which was really, am I connected to that guide? Am I connected to where we're going from an internal perspective? Am I connected to the bigger picture and what opportunities are there? I'm not even seeing them because I'm not even interacting with that part of the kind of world and with that part of myself. And so I was very focused on action. And obviously when you raise the bar, you're trying to get balance across all those different parts
areas,
so that you collective raise up, and then you become stable. And then when you become like stable, you become like this pillar that is just rock solid. And that's where you can start to build on top of that foundation. That's where you put your dreams, your goals, your vision, and all that sits on that foundation. But it's got to be solid to start.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we have the same. Obviously, me being in the health and fitness industry, that is the biggest part of. I was actually listening to a book from my bub this morning, and it is build the human first before you even become a performance athlete. And he talks about everything from nutrition, lifestyle habits, how you're seeing yourself spiritually, all the eclectic things that we talk about in your books are more about which are about the whole holistic living side of things. He deals with like Olympians, and he's dealing with like high-end performance CrossFit athletes and massive. These dudes are freaks, but his foundations of everything becomes be more human. It's you are here. Do you want to perform better? Sleep more. You want to perform better? Eat like an adult, not like a child. Yeah. You want to all that kind of stuff. And I think it's massively important. Like you said about how people's foundations of their practice is not actually adherent to what their goals are. So that you said, it's with anything, whether it's in business, they're not prepared to go the extra mile. They're not prepared to do. They want to do bare minimum, but it's the bare minimum which is your subconscious saying that you've done enough. But that's not saying to go over the ledge and go, right, you need to burn the candle at both ends and give up your family and all this stuff. But it's like you said, it's about making it happen. And using your time wisely, like you described in your book about you getting up at 4 a.m. and 3 a.m. to write a book so you can spend time with your boy. Now, you're fully aware that having that lack of sleep is not good for you, but yet you know that if you do that for a certain period of time, it's going to give you the ability to not do that and reap the rewards of doing it. And that's what the big part of what I at the moment, I've got a big thing about. I get up at 5 every morning on weekdays, purely because at my job I do anyway, and I study 5 till 7 in the morning because I'm starting to get more work into nutrition and running some seminars for people and stuff. And not that it's freaked me out, but it's given me, I've kicked me in the balls and gone, oh shit, actually I want to make sure that I'm on my game. Now realistically, I'll know more than anyone in that seminar from a nutrition standpoint and a coaching standpoint. But my own level of thinking is I don't want to be outworked or out-knowledged without having something to try and I think what people do is they sit back and they go, it's acceptable. Whereas my thing is that people are coming to me for advice. I want to make sure that I can actually serve them for whatever situation they're in, not just give them some blasé bullshit, bloody scientific, neurological answer. Yeah.
And
it's
really
about putting it in layman's terms. I give them the ability, like similar to, like, we'll go through your 4 C's now, is like, these are simple. And these have been talked about for hundreds within so many books and so many different people. Even I mean, I'm a fluent dyslexic, so reading's tough for me, but the stuff that I've read, you see these all the time. But the reason why they work, and I think they've worked for everyone that I know that's read this book, is they speak to you in a way that's not out of context. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I think there's a lot out there, like you said. There's a lot of people know this stuff, right? But once you say it in a way that isn't, like, people are going to resonate with other people that are like you, but it's also, you can say the same thing in your way and it can actually hit home with someone and change the game for that person, even though someone else has been saying it for decades. Or you can put things together in a certain combination that work for you, which is what I did. I was like, this is the combination that worked for me. If it works for you, take it, run with it, take parts that work, leave the bits that don't. Just try it. That was my kind of, just try it. And then, obviously, like the third point I'd probably say is about burning desire. Once you get something that you're so hungry on, like, and I would say sit in thought, and just, because thought is really powerful, right? If you sit and you just focus, like the thing that, even Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, they both accredit their success due to focus. The one word that they say help them most is concentrated effort on a specific goal. So if you don't know what you want to do, or if you go into a room, even turn the lights off, make it, comfortable, and just focus in on solving that one problem, and let your subconscious mind actually bring ideas to the table about how you can create the life you want or get further. And once you get a real burning desire for that thing, you will get up at 3 a.m. if you want. You'll go to bed at 7 p.m. to make sure you get your sleep, but you will be at 3 a.m. to put in the work, because if you do that stint, it will allow you the lifestyle that you want, which is, again, that is what we need to connect to, because that's going to get you over the mountain and keep you going when it gets tough, when rocks get thrown. It's just, you need that big burning desire.
Well, off that, I think let's go through your 4 C's and just let you describe why you connected them in that way. Obviously, the 4 C's would be creation, conditioning, certainty, and connection. But if you go through them and explain why they're so important and how you apply them, I think that they're the main things that I got from this book. And I'm not just blowing your fucking trumpet about it, but it gives you so much data. And I mean, I've scribbled on it like a 5-year-old child of highlighters, just because of the amount of like palatable information that's usable. Whereas a lot of this stuff can be very like wishy-washy. You talk about spiritualism I mean, I deal with fighters. You talk about spiritualism, they only think about being a gladiator and a warrior. None of them talk about meditating or actually chewing their food and knowing they're in the room. Or you see what I'm saying? I think that like these are things that people can use and are very easy to understand. But it'd be good for you to go through, like, for us to see how you have put them into your practice and how we could put it into ours.
Yeah. And a lot of my practice, like creation was the first one, and that really relates to the life area of taking action. So I wanted to have a framework, which is the 4 C's, but then I wanted to make it real for people. So what does creation actually mean, right? Simply put, it means taking action. So I wanted to start with that, because it was my speciality and it's the thing that I had seen make the most difference in my life. The reason I was mediocre or performing mediocre, because I was having ideas, I wasn't putting them into practice. Having ideas, not doing it. Getting scared, not putting it through, not applying for that thing, not taking control in terms of the action, not taking control of the emotion. So for me, I started with that because I knew it would be really strong way to start, and I wanted to help people the most to maximum impact. In the book, I say, the reason I've started with this part is because I want you to start doing it now. We're not getting to the end of this book and then you're trying all this stuff. You're starting to take action because I want you to see success before we even finish this book and you haven't even put in the other 4 C's. And that's the shift. So you've already seen the shift before you start doing it. So action taking was the first one, really, because first time I really noticed that you could influence people, or you could change your stars, change your fate, was when I was at university. It was my second year. I wasn't really that into it. I'd just come back from a tour of the United States doing downhill mountain bike racing for a year in the Pennsylvania mountains, snowboarding in Lake Tahoe, all these Colorado, doing the best things in my life. And now I had to go back to my second year, which I deferred to, uni. And then from there, I essentially decided I didn't want to be in Newcastle. I wanted to be in London because that was where everything was at. And I've been flying in and out. I needed to go to London. So pretty much overnight, I started this course in Newcastle, realized it wasn't for me. And I'd done a year in Newcastle. It's a great town to be in. Great
crazy
people.
Night out.
Massive night out.
Epic night out.
Which was awesome. But London was where it was at for me. And I basically decided overnight I was going to pack up my stuff, rent out this flat, get this flat gone that I just rented with a room in a flat. And all these problems that were there were insignificant, even though there were problems that were going to cost me money. But the main thing I had to do was talk another university into taking me. And I settled on one that I thought would be appropriate. But the problem was, in psychology, which is a degree that I did, it was completely oversubscribed. It was already oversubscribed by 6-7 people, and the course was due to start in 2 days. So, and the guy that was making the decision maker was actually off sick. So there was no kind of person I could talk to influence. So anyway, what I realized in that process was, if you commit to something, if you take action, and if you really believe, if you're willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen, you will find a route through. And because there was no other option for me, I burnt the bridges, I burnt the boats, I literally cut ties, I unenrolled from the university. So I was essentially a free man, in no UCAS system, in no university affiliation. And then I went down to London, and in 2 days managed to talk my way into that course, find a place for myself, and then essentially finish the degree. But what that did for me mentally around taking action, and actually it just showed me that literally anything you can think of is possible if you commit fully and you commit to taking the action, no matter how big or how much it kind of costs you or what you're risking. As long as you commit into it, you'll find a way. And then that comes into your kind of self-belief. And that's where the next part was around conditioning. So I'd become really good at, just from that experience when I was 19, to then just, right, well, let's take action. Let's solve this through action. And it was great. And it really, really worked. And I'd say that's one of the biggest drivers of success, is getting up and doing it even when you don't feel like it. The successful people, the pros, the people that are smashing it, all the guys that you look at, and the girls that you look at, are out there that are just killing it. They're doing the hard work. They're doing the hard graft. As you know, in PT industry, you can get the results without doing the hard training. And that's where the admiration comes from. Someone that's done some serious hard graft to get to that place. But when you're performing at a mediocre level, you don't necessarily know that. And you're coming from this victim mentality, like, okay, it's easy for them because they've got all the money in the world, or they've got this, or they had this gym, or they had that. whatever it is, you make up all these excuses, and that stops your own action. And so basically shoving that to the side and realizing that you were your own worst enemy, and that if you want it, you can get it, but it's on you. You have the responsibility. No one else. There's no excuses in the world. So that was the first piece. I really wanted people to get their teeth stuck into that, really figure out their time management. So I knew that was a big piece for people. It's one of the big penny drop moments for me around how I orientate my day, what time am I actually spending focused on, the kind of important but not urgent stuff. So 60% of the day I try to orientate in that. What are the things that can move the needle the most that are important, but they're not yet urgent? Because if they're urgent, then you're reactive. You're reacting to it. You have to put out the fire. You have to go and solve that crisis. You have to get on the phone. You have to win that client back. Whatever it is, it needs your attention now. Versus, what's the stuff you're doing to build your business? What's the strategy? What's the business development? What are you putting in place for the long term? What's the analysis? What's the data? All that kind of stuff. And the relationship building, the networking. That's where I realized you need to spend your time, 60% of your time. And then just cutting out and having discipline around how much I'm doing on social media, just scrolling and browsing, how much movies are taking over my life, and then junk food and all these things, and just having huge discipline about I'm not saying it was easy, and I'm not saying that I'm a master at it even now. Like, I ate a load of fudge yesterday and cold storage. Like, it's like it sneaks in there, man. Like, it's not something that just like you do it and then I've mastered this framework,
and that's
and then
suddenly,
it sneaks back in there very, very easily. And it's really about getting disciplined about what the bigger goal is and what matters to me most, and then having a little bit of a break, like having a release. Maybe I have like a half day where I'm able to do these things, or I'm able to eat fudge, whatever, that just, gives you that release. But that was the time management piece. So I really started to double down on focus. And then we got into conditioning, because that was a part that was lacking, because I was spending so much time in action.
Of course.
I wasn't really doing any kind of proper routine when it came to physical health and fitness. And so, like the sleep stuff, like making sure that everything, like you guys will know all of this down to a T, but it's just, exactly making sure that you've got the right components in your life that's going to support and make your body and mind strong. And then into self-belief, because that was a big area that I felt I'd always made a company responsible for my own development. And I was like, well, surely they're going to send me on a training course, or I'm out of uni or school or whatever. Therefore, I'm done. Like that's fine. And then this big piece dropped in. I was like, no, it's all about self-education, that you can pay for these courses. You can put yourself on this course or in the pathway to your own success. No one else is going to do that for you. And it was that big realization, which really was take responsibility for how anxious, for how fearful, for how, not wanting to take action you feel, or just generally in life, like what if your confidence level is here, but you would love to be on stage talking to 50,000 people. How do we get from here to there? Like, that's possible. How do we get from here to there? And so being able to do that and really focusing on self-belief, which is the third C, which is around certainty. So having certainty in yourself and where you're going, and it comes down to self-belief. And then the final one is connection and spiritual. So that's really about listening to that inner side. And I didn't write this to begin with. Like, it was a 3 C's model. And I'd got to the end of the book, and I'm this is what I want to say. There's something missing. Like, there's something missing when it really comes down to big success above and beyond the action taking. And a bit like when everything goes wrong, or when you really do lose the job and you've got these bills coming in and they're huge, and you need not a miracle, but you kind of do need something different out of this world to really force you, to give you this superhuman strength to kind of carry on forward. And so being able to connect back with the spiritual side was really important, because just being able to do things like control your breathing. Say you're going into an interview and you really want the job, big interview, big job, you really want it and you want to impress. It's just about getting that diaphragmatic breathing going, because knowing that, and then being able to control that meditative state so that you can control your emotions back down and bring it to a place where you can bring the best self forward. And bring your ideas to the table, and and listen to what your inner self is saying, your inner guide, especially when we go back through the other 3 C's and you're faced with decisions that are wrong for you, but peer pressure, whatever it is, it's the wrong decision. But you need the discipline and you need to connect to it. What does it matter inside? And what's the inner guide there saying? For years, I kind of blocked that guy out. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine because I've had success. But it won't. And when you try and get up to the higher levels of success, you need all of that to come together to be able to recognize the opportunities and to be able to move forward into that territory. So that was.
Well, you see that in high level sports teams. Like you talk about the All Blacks in rugby. Obviously, I'll go down that route. For spiritualism is a huge part of their mantra. They've got a book called Legacy from James Keir, which is about how it's similar to, it's about business, but why the All Blacks are so successful. And it's one thing that when I read that book, because I was a very emotional rugby player, I'd fight everyone. If someone was starting on me, I wouldn't give a shit about a game. I wanted to kick the crap out of them. Whereas if I could go back now, being able to leverage and utilize my emotions for a more business-like strategic position, one, I wouldn't have such a car crash of a face, but two, I'd actually know about making better decisions for my team, not just emotional ones where I was willing to bleed for them. I think, like you said about the connection between, I'm a very spiritual person in the respect of, I believe in, I have faith, but I'm not religious, but I have faith in myself. And my spiritualism in that respect is, I believe that you have parts of you which are very manualistic in the respect of you. They are very primal. But on the flip of that, having that audacity to understand the connection between that and what you're trying to achieve and leveraging that is what's really, really important. I mean, from a physical perspective, that comes down to training intensity and recovering harder. But from a bigger standpoint, and what I like about this is this creates a bigger human and a performing human who can actually reach a higher level, is using that to drive you and keep you on the same straight and narrow, but giving you the rest and giving yourself a break. I think what I find a lot of people, and I think people that I know who are reading the book now, is then they're not prepared to give themselves a break. They're not prepared to let off. They feel that they have to keep, they have this masculine, I'm going to kick the shit out of myself all the time mentality, which I've had as well, and I still do. At the moment, all I do is work, but because my bigger being is, it's because of the virus and because of the way that my business literally had to change on its head in a sixpence. I challenged myself because I knew that I could do what I've been saying about going online and being a bit bigger and trying to show people and get a bigger audience and try and spread the word a bit more. I've been saying that for years because I've had this block of getting to a certain point of me feeling like I'm successful and then going, actually, I'm good. I don't need to go any further. Whereas now that faith of it's exactly what you've been saying about taking action and pushing forward and making sure that my head's in the right space and believing in myself, but believing what I'm doing is actually going to help people. And that spiritualistic being is not just, it's not, I think a lot of people will use that as a negative because they feel that it's not that it's weak, but that it's, I don't need to do that. Whereas I think it's the most powerful thing you can have, is actually to be able to sit there and know in yourself that you're doing the right thing. And that is huge, because then all your decisions then are going to be right for you, like you said, for your family and your actions that you take, rather than it being this airy-fairy, wishy-washy, I don't know, whatever.
If you get to you, if you're comfortable with what you've put out, that overcomes that hurdle. Before, when you experience success, it doesn't matter if you go out there again and it fails, because you're answering to you and you're comfortable with out there and trying out. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. And once you get to that stage, you go like nothing ever before. And also just once you recognize that voice inside, and once you do meditate, like there's so many A players out there that really have explained that journey where they needed to get tougher to win in business, right? Or they needed to become a certain individual. I needed to write this book at 3 a.m. else it wouldn't get done. But I needed to transform into a certain person for a few years of grind to be able to get this out, right? But that's not sustainable, right? That's also leads you to burnout. And I've burnt out a couple of times as well. And the danger is and why this spiritual part is really, this connection part is so important, is because it brings us all together as humans. And it's that being able to have that space and create that space for yourself to just get clearer on what you're doing, get clear on what the world needs right now, what you need right now, what are the ideas that are flowing through you. And if you're not going to tap into them, you're never going to reach that higher level. You can try really, really and get really, really close, but it just becomes just a lot easier if we get that running all the way through. And that's the balance piece.
Yeah, and I think that's it's important for people that to know the balance piece. I mean, at the moment, from a personal standpoint, I'm trying to pull the trigger because my bigger being is I know that in a couple of years that I will end up having a kid and I'll have a family. That'll be my biggest driver. I'm currently in a position where I don't have, my boy's not running and jumping on my lap at 8 a.m. when I know I've got to work and he's like, Dad, can I go for a swim, please? You know what I mean? So like yourself, and you put in I've got a very close friend who's got 3 kids, and he's what's he now? He'll be 33, and his daughters. He had Liv at 18, Isla and JJ. He's now 3, but he's done the opposite. He's obviously had a family. He's basically my age, and I've seen I knew him. I knew when he had one child, or Liv and the youngest one. I knew how hard he had to pull his finger out to support his family. Now he's the head of sport at Marlborough College. His kids are smashing it in sport and they're old enough to understand it. And it's a lot, but I saw him exactly this. He's a professional rugby player when I was with him. I mean, he played at Worcester, played at London Irish, played at Bedford and Doncaster with me. And he's a freak. However much you meet him, you'll think he's not. He's just so chilled out about it. But he had kids everywhere, professional sportsman, having to work a bit as well at school. He was a nutter, and exactly that. And I would love to have shown him this then, because he was doing this.
Yeah.
There wasn't any framework to it. It was purely like, this is what I've got to do, because he had a kid. Where me, I went through a major injury and I went through a lot of hardship and stuff, and that's what drove me through that spiritual part and through the grey areas of how to perform better was purely based on my situation. As I said, this kind of thing for people to actually read and know they're not in the trenches alone is very important, because everyone thinks they're going through their shit and no one else has gone through it, and then you suddenly realize that everyone who's done anything worth any cop has gone through the toughest times they could believe, and they've got through it. And we're a tough organism that can go through a lot of shit, and people don't forget that. They think that everything has to be easy and soft, and I find that's what I call it, sharpen the edges. Sometimes you have to be in a tough position to then know that you've got more in the tank.
And that's keeping the saw sharp as well. Like that's what the Stoics used to do. Like even though they had wealth or they had riches and they were in this good position, once a week they would sleep on the floor just because they wanted to show whatever I'm afraid of, which is what's the worst thing that could happen. Right, I'm sleeping rough on the street. Right, tonight we're sleeping rough on the street, just to show myself that, okay, I survived. Right, it's fine. So whatever I was afraid of, which was the worst case scenario, I can actually survive. And they used to do this no matter how high up in society they got, all the way through, to keep their mind really focused on sharpening that saw and being kind of an animal, being, able to, a warrior, being able to take on whatever life throws and just make the best of it.
No. I mean, I think that comes down to obviously you've got your 3rd book coming out now, and this leads into it. This is big for me because the art of decision making is out now. It's funny because when I was a kid, my dad, I always used to go up to him and ask him and say, and all my friends have got this. I grew up basically in Brentford in the UK, and a lot of my friends are from poor economic backgrounds, and their parents were very hard of them, and they had mantras of all be survivors and this kind of jazz. And I remember my dad lost his job so many times, and he moved to London on 50 quid, and he's from Stoke, he's from a shithole, but excuse my French, but his mantra was be daring, be different, be decisive. And it was interesting for me because that was he's always told me that. My dad's a creative director. He works at Jaguar Land Rover. He's very arty, played football, but he's very outspoken and wants to show everyone actually how to be creative and that kind of thing. But decision making was the biggest one that I think from when I was a kid, I saw my dad did things like he lost his job and went and bought a new car on purpose because it pushed him to make money. When he lost his job, he refused to go and be a taxi driver. My mum helped him, and he did a bit of freelance, but it took him 2.5 years to find a job. And now he's one of the only guys at his age still in the game. So this is something I mean, I haven't read, I'm going to start reading this now, is the art of decision making. Let's just go through what it's about, and obviously where everyone can sort of grab it, because that's going to get. I'm putting that into grabs, the ones that we caught up with, and they've gone all to the guys over here. But yeah, let's go through that and see, and let's figure out how that's going.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it was one of the main stories that got a lot of attention when it came to either people on podcasts or radio shows or shows in general. They wanted to find out about the near-death experience that I had when I was 19 and I was snowboarding, which was an incredible. I've realised since it was an incredible lesson, but at the time, being a teenager, it's don't really think like that. Like, it's just, this thing happened and it was mental. And I could go into it if you want. It's just
do it, man. People will love it.
Well, I think firstly, decision making has become, and even more in this climate, decision making and being able to pull the trigger on a decision quickly is something that one of the most highly skilled job and employers look for. Like that as a skill is a very employable right now skill to have. And so being able to develop that muscle for making decisions both effectively, but also just making the decision, because so many people sit on the fence. So many people don't have an opinion. So many people don't want to take that risk and just go for it, and then find out that feedback if they're wrong or not, and then course correct and adjust and adapt, and have the capability to be able to feel comfortable to be going, no, I made a decision, I owned it, but I also own how we deal with it in that next stage. And then we course correct. Right. Or it was the right decision and I was the first mover and we took all the territory, and we got a massive competitive advantage because we went in and we made the right decision, rather than sitting on the fence and mulling over it. And oftentimes you don't have all the information, right? And you're never going to get all the information. And that's the piece in this world, like we're saying about, it's started to become a bit more around, everyone wants luxury, they want comfort, they want, I can't possibly do that, it could extend myself too much. And it's a society that's potentially projected by a fake world on social media, where everyone lives these amazing lives, but actually
absolutely
the real ones that are owning it and saying, no, this is how my life's going, and today wasn't that good, or today was amazing, and this is why. And so decision making, when it comes down to it, and being able to really guide yourself and your company and your business and your teammates or whoever through that kind of tundra, that's what it's all about in today's day and age. So that's what's going to set you apart. And so what I did was, I went snowboarding in the Swiss Alps on a holiday, and we didn't travel much as a family when I was young. It was actually probably the second abroad holiday we'd had, and by the time I was 19. And for whatever reason, I just decided that I was going to go off piste snowboarding. I was a big fan of the X Games. I loved snowboarding through the TV, and I'd done a bit, and I'd lied to the school trip and had said I was an advanced snowboarder, when actually I was just a beginner. I'd done an hour on the dry ski slope, and I literally had not mastered snowboarding, especially not to go down double black diamonds. And anyway, I threw myself into the group, and I learned very quickly, which was great because I got to do like all of the different slopes. The first couple of days were pretty dodgy and pretty hairy because I was not an accomplished snowboarder, but by the end of it, I opened my eyes to what skiing is all about, what snowboarding is all about, and what the actual fun was about, rather than staying on the blue and the green runs where I wouldn't have really got a flavour for it. So when I went to the Swiss Alps on this trip, something from that experience has said, all right, well, we've done it before. Let's push the boundaries again. Let's try some off piste. And so after a few runs down on the piste, I hopped over the fence and I got all this speed, booted up the side of this bank and over the crest of a mountain. I had no idea what was coming the other side. And that was really the problem, really. I hadn't done an investigation first, nor did I know that was like a route for off-piste, because obviously the community of snowboarders would know the best off-piste routes. Even they would also know where not to go. And me, I'm just going off, and that's what we do. Like, the problem was after about literally 20 seconds, I was straight flat out on my back, hit the ice, hard black ice, and I was traveling straight down the mountainside, spread eagle like this. And
wow.
first I was shocked because I didn't have a helmet on, didn't have all the protective gear that I should have had. It hurt a lot. And then I essentially got my senses, and suddenly I started spinning, and then I was heading down the hill backwards, not even knowing where I was going. Spinning. I put my gloves out. It burns through the gloves. Literally, this is obviously back 20 years ago, where it's just, you don't kind of have the right equipment as well. I did not have the best gloves and the best jacket. I'm just out there, probably not even a ski jacket, but anyway. Then part of me still thinking this is quite hilarious and I'll come to a standstill at some point, because that's not really getting that this is uncharted terrain. There is no sort of forgiveness out here. And eventually I started to kind of guide myself back and get more of a balance and get myself centered the right way. And that's where everything sort of shifted to, this is a really serious situation, Tim. You're building up a lot of speed here. Your gloves are tattered. And you have tried everything in your head to try and stop, and you haven't stopped. So end of the fun, because I was sort of out of options. Then I'm starting to see this kind of wall of blue, pristine blue sky. And so I'm like, this is really weird. Really weird. And then I realized I'm heading straight towards it, and it's the edge of a cliff. And I kid you not, within that split second, it's like time slowed down. My brain went, what's the one thing you can do? And it picked the one idea that worked, which was I had flow bindings on, which are quick release. So you can essentially, it means you can basically release them in one hit. So you literally pull down, flick them off, and you're out of the board. And I realized that the board was keeping me stretched out. And that's the problem, because the board was stretching me out, I couldn't get any grip to then push it into the ice and at least slow myself down. So I need to get rid of the board. Literally, at that moment, I sweep the board off. The board flies off the edge of the cliff, and I'm jumping at whatever. Out of nowhere, this is the kind of miracle shit that I'm talking about. There's a big rock. The one place I am, a big rock. Literally land on this rock. I'm bear hugging this rock. Legs swing over like this, over the side. I turn around and I see the board just floating through the air like this, just going all the way down. And I'm like, oh my. This is how have I gone from literally less than 5 minutes ago type thing, being on the other side and casually snowboarding down, to now hanging off of the side of a cliff. And so that's where the story sort of begins, and that's my beginning of how I then took that thing that then transpired that day that then happened. Because obviously I'm up there, I've got no GPS, I've got no phone, no water, no food. No one knows where I am because I'm a teenager. I haven't told anyone which run I'm going on, which mountain I'm hitting. No one knows that I've not got a buddy with me. It's just me and the elements. And I also know it's, midday or whatever, but in 4 hours, the sun's going to go down and I'm going to be stuck in
the middle of nowhere.
Pretty much dying, dead, freezing to death on a mountain. So I have to figure out how to save my life from being on the position of hanging off the side of a cliff that was at least 200 foot from the vantage point that I had. It was a lot higher when I got down. But anyway, it goes through that experience. And then it also talks about since, and I wrote this book directly after Be the Lion. So it's sort of, in this, part one is my story and part two is a bit more like Be the Lion. Right here's 6 of the top decision-making strategies you can apply today to help in the area of get mastery over decision-making. So for me, it's sort of like a different style of book, because you've got a bit of story and then a bit of action packaged together to say, right, out of this, there's some lessons that people need to learn, because there's some lessons, there's some gold within that experience for me that I realized I've applied to my own life and business around decision-making, because I've actually got myself off of that situation before basically it's time. Effectively, you've got death here and you've got racing against time. It's like Crystal Maze or something. You've got to get to the end before everything finishes and it's game over.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to reading that, man. I think it's one of those things where people that I've met that have gone through an experience that is literally gonna, it is life or death in that respect. I mean, I resonate with that personally. I mean, obviously I've got in the way of someone trying to get kicked by a horse and it snapped my leg in half, and nearly lost my
So, yeah,
rugby
you
career,
got
all this.
pain.
Yeah, I had that happen, but that's what this kind of stuff, that kind of stuff is real and it's raw. And like you said, it sounds like a cartoon, but but it's because it's so specific. But I think that would be really helpful for people to have, is like you said, is they can see that someone has gone through a form of hardship, but you're also offering a way of getting out of crystal maze, which is those 6 decision making processes. You know what I mean? So yeah, that'd be awesome, man. I'm really looking forward to that. But thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate it. You've been an hour of your time, man, and thank you very much. Is it where best place to catch you would be timcastle.com? Is that right?
Yeah, so I've got timjscastle.com or timjscastle at timjscastle on social media. And then, yeah, pretty much everywhere like that.
Legend. Now, thank you
Nice
very
one,
much,
mate.
man. That was so good.
Good. Appreciate it.
And it definitely